All right, welcome back, sports fans. It is the Crank Brothers Race Review series. Myself and selected few co-hosts will break down each and every World Cup DH race this season. Crank Brothers is synonymous with the DH racing circuit. Last year, celebrating, listen to this, 14 years in a row with that Elite World Champs title on the Mallet DH pedal. They also won the 2024 World Cup overall title on the pedals. Now, it's not just pedals, as you know. They've been adding to their offering, and they've got amazing shoes with a whole host of race winners and podium contenders. Riders like Ronan Dunn, unfortunately crashing out, Andy Cole, Bernard Kerr, who's injured, but Ocean O'Callaghan put on a show in Poland. Lucas Shaw, Camille Belange back from injury, and Troy Bosden, Benoit Coulange. Plus, exciting news, they've added Commensal Makov will be running their wheels, and lets me introduce none other than Wyn Masters on your screen. He's also on the wheels and is doing his awesome post-race interviews on Win TV. He was in Poland freezing his nuts off, I would presume. Man, we had it all at this first race, eh, Win?
It was definitely a European World Cup needles. It was a true test of rider, mechanic, team, everything. I don't think we've had a colder World Cup than that I can remember. So that was as cold as it gets, and it was snowing in the start gate.
It sure was. I mean, it
Yeah,
literally was white on that ramp. But
yeah,
yeah, you brought up a good thing. Like we've had so many of these team changes, roster changes, and they were thrown in the deep end. You know, some of these new teams, new rosters, riders working with new mechanics. I mean, that is some of the worst conditions. Having to deal with the cold, the rain, the snow, changing conditions. That's really where the pressure builds. But you saw most, if not all of them, were able to deliver. I mean, I wasn't there watching people run around the paddock stressing, but there were some big time teams that have spent a lot of money. I mean, I've been watching the tech videos with the rigs, and they
yeah,
luckily were delivered. A lot of them delivered.
yeah. I think most of them managed to get their riders through to the final, but of course there was a few that didn't. So they probably have a long drive ahead back from Poland after that journey out there and not having raced the final. So it's pretty cutthroat right now, and I don't think the sport's ever been as competitive as right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think a talking point is obviously the rule change. So this is the first time we really see Q1, Q2, and I guess we didn't really know if it was going to be on YouTube. Then suddenly it was. So I don't know if I missed anything. So that's really cool. I think they should promote that it is. Like that was cool to
Yeah,
watch. So I got on my way to Madeira, like got to sort of see what was happening from afar. I had a stat here that was super interesting to me. So in Q1, Elite's qualifying margin, time gap to 20th, was only 3.8 seconds. So that's 2% off the winning time. In the women's, it was a lot more. Time gap to 10th, 8.9 seconds. Just think
yeah,
about that, Win. That's like
yeah,
one of the huge topics is Q1, Q2. I don't want to beat a dead horse. But you telling me you got to be within 2% of the winning time, 3.8 seconds to make it in on Q1. And we saw a lot of guys not make it. 10 former World Cup slash World Champs winners
yeah.
were not thrown through. You know, they didn't get through in the men's.
Yeah, insane. Like there's 10 or 11 of those guys, and then there's only 10 spots in the Q2. So you put in like I don't know, you just had to read through that Q2 start list, and I was like, wow, this is a race. Like the to me, I was like, I've nearly got no chance, but we just have to send it. And I can't imagine being in the situation of some of those guys where they have to be in the final. Like if you're paid hundreds of thousands by your team, they've got a big truck and everything, you have to be racing the final. Like that's your job. So there would have been some very nervous people for that Q2 session, but I think that needs to be broadcast every race live because that's more exciting than the final race, really, for me. Like just being on the edge of your seat, seeing if Jackson Goldstone's going to be racing tomorrow. That's totally unexpected, but you had like 11 people like Jackson Goldstone who were in there, and probably quite stressed at the time, and it was extreme conditions as well. And then for extreme conditions, that 3.8 second margin from first to 20th in Q1 is mental. Like the level of sport just keeps going up.
Yeah, it's so mental, and these teams seem like they've sort of been forced to sometimes add add riders to their roster. They're investing more. They want their riders in the final, and you've got Charlie Hatton, Laurie Geenan was ill, I hear, Reese Wilson, Charlie Hatton. If I haven't mentioned him, I may have. I've had a long day in Madeira, day one, so just everyone excuse my lack of energy here, but we'll get going. So yeah, it was bummer to see those guys not make it through Q2. Definitely a fairer way to do it if you don't do protection. So everyone's kind of like, yeah, let's not do protection. But man, dude, only 30 guys. I find it hard to believe with how the depth is. And then, so you tell me, so you go up for your first one, Wyn. Are you going, okay, top 30, maybe I can do that? Do you just go hell for leather if you're not like a top 20 guy and just try wing it into the Q1? Like we saw a few names that are maybe not big names managed to get it into the final from Q1. I'm thinking that's your strategy, but then the guys that, like you say, the big names, they've got to ride a little bit more conservatively.
Yeah.
Because they kind of can, but like it's so dangerous.
I think a lot of those kind of underdog guys, they just have to send it every run, and the majority of those top guys, the 11 world champions or World Cup winners that ended up in Q2, they're used to have been protected their whole career, a lot of them anyway, and it's just like now suddenly they don't have that, so they've ridden the Q1 like, oh yeah, I think this should get me in, but you can't ride like, I think this should get me in. You have to just send it, like there's no choice. And I heard from, I don't know who said, but from Jackson, he said, I think it was just in a group chat, and he said I had to ride like a World Cup race run to get through Q2, and that was just like I had no choice. I had to, and then he gets through in 8th, and he had a bit of sickness as well. A lot of people had sickness at the weekend, but Jackson Goldstone fighting to get a spot in the final is pretty crazy. Like we would not have expected that at all.
No, you wouldn't. You'd be like, okay, he's going through even with a bad run. Look, conditions didn't favor him. Like when it gets that sloppy and him carrying speed, obviously he was ill. Part of me wonders, like not doing as many preseason races. You know, what did that strategy maybe not pay off? But I think he was more sick, and course just not suiting him, I would say. But yeah, dude, I mean, we could talk for a long time on that new change, which was positive for excitement, positive for fairness, positive that they broadcast it. So, hey, look at us. We've freaking given some props here, you know, and I think we are just looking at the race like from a fair point, you know, and we can get into some of the controversies. But I did hear that they've employed like 2 Scottish lads that go down the course like all the time, trying to like check on poles and all that stuff, which leads to one of the controversies is Amri Piron. I mean, the internet's blowing up on if he should have been disqualified. So we've had it. We've had weather. We've got new teams. We've got new signings. We've got Tani delivering in crazy conditions. Like we've got so many crazy topics.
Yeah, I think I don't know if we've seen a World Cup with so much drama. We had people running the track. We had the Polegate with Amrit.
Okay, so people were in the track for Hattie Harden's run. Yeah. I mean, should that not be a rerun?
To me, 100%. There's no way that did not impede her race run. Like even if she's crashed, that's not
doesn't matter.
It's not even part of the calculation if her race run got impeded. 100%.
No, it's not.
100% it was affected, and then that could have contributed to the second crash, which then stopped her from getting so many points. You've lost your focus when someone's running on the track in front of you.
Yeah, you've lost your focus. I mean, that's the biggest key here. Well said.
Yeah. So it's just dangerous, really. And whoever it was had an official lanyard on, so they're part of the organisation somewhat. I'm not sure why they were running on the track, but it was pretty dangerous and it was pretty amateur. But otherwise, the whole thing was a success with the Q1, Q2. So they've done well with that. I'll give them props on that. But having people running in the track is not even something you see at the local races.
Hopefully not. I mean, I was here in Madeira, riding all over the island, and luckily that didn't even happen to me. So, no, you're right. That shouldn't happen. You would hope. Yeah, hope we can learn from that. Yeah, it doesn't even matter if you say, "Oh, the person was 10 foot in front of it." It's like, what are you talking about? You lose your focus for a second, you lose time, or like you say, you can crash coming after that. Like going, there was a person in the track, poof, crash. So yeah, that's definitely not ideal. So huge success on Q1, Q2 for drama. Big boys probably didn't like being in Q2. I think they're gonna all learn and adapt the strategy like they did with semifinals last year that they maybe didn't like,
Yeah,
but then they're
yeah,
professional. They'll adapt. So I think they're going to relook at some of the strategy. A drier course might be a little fairer and easier, but those time gaps are going to shrink. It's just
yeah,
insane, dude.
and
3.8 seconds from
yeah.
first to 20th. That used to be the podium split.
It's not even in the dry either. So it's like, imagine what we're going to get when it's a dry,
Like Leo
fast
gang.
race. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, man. Anyway, dead horse, but I wish we could have more in the final for sure. Like if you look at percentages and stuff on the women, that's great they got 15. But if you look at the depth, you can't argue that there's not crazy depth on both sides.
yeah.
So yeah, let's move on. Q1, Q2 is exciting, both women and men. That's incredible.
I think
Yep.
I think they don't broadcast it live. I think there was just a replay that got put out, like from what I
Yeah.
gather. But then make sure it goes out live and follow 1 minute of every rider, not one rider for 3 minutes. Otherwise, you
Yes.
don't get to watch anyone. Like,
Yeah. So we missed
yeah,
Jackson's run and a few others. Yes.
yeah. So we want to see little bit of every rider rather than a lot of every three riders. I think.
Yeah, and that's a challenge with Q1, Q2. So I understand that the first 20 get seeded at the end, and then the Q2, LCQ. Actually, broadcast was calling it LCQ, so props to
Yeah.
me. We'll just keep calling it LCQ. So if the broadcast, it is a last chance qualify, bro. Last
Yeah,
chance
it's
to
the
get
last
in.
chance they've got. Yeah.
Go. But unfortunately, because you can't really re-rank, or maybe we've got to figure out a ranking system, but the conditions were a little bit different.
Mm.
So, like, imagine it's wet for Q1, then dry for LCQ, then those guys are going to go quicker. Then I don't know what to do. But the reason I'm bringing it up is we didn't see a lot of Amari's run. So, we've been
No.
told we're going to
Yeah.
30, we're cutting down to 30. So, my question or feedback is shit, we need to see more of Amari's run.
Yeah.
But that makes the broadcast total time a little bit long. So, it's like,
But
you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
but then do we need to do uh, the time of the Q2 riders get put in with the Q1 riders? So some riders will go very quick in Q2. The conditions can be different, 100%, but we maybe need to do a time adjustment. I think for maybe, and then throw them in like within the last 20 or like after the top 10. So say Amari was where he came. Maybe he was the 11th fastest, then put him in 11 and let that top 10 from Q1 stay the last 10 and then add them all
Yeah,
in
they've
there.
earned it. And
Yeah.
then if your time is faster than I guess you've got to make a system on how fast the time is and where you can slot in. But Amri's
Hmm.
going that quick in Q2. He clearly needs to be coming down later for the story of the race, because now you've got him coming
Yeah.
down like second, sitting in the hot
Yeah.
seat like, oh,
And the
is
race
anyone
is
going to
dead.
beat this time? Race
Yeah.
is a bit dead
The,
for a while. Red
we're
split, red
probably
split, red split.
Yeah, most of the race was like that, and then you're standing there watching, and you're like, I hope someone beats him because otherwise, there's not a race on their hands. Like all we're gonna see
Yeah,
is Umri's run some of it, and no one beat him.
Yeah, so you can understand. I do understand. Like, it is a challenging thing to figure out, but maybe we'll learn as it goes. Like, okay, what was the broadcast like, and did we
Hmm.
lose the race for a little bit by not reseeding them? So you
Yeah.
guys felt that at the bottom a bit, like, oh, flip, red split, red split.
Yeah,
And
it
other than
was
that,
raining, raining and cold, and we're watching nothing happen. Essentially, like red splits.
oh my
Uh,
goodness,
like, and there was nowhere that was sheltered that you could watch the race from. You just had to stand in the rain.
did really?
Yeah. So
Okay,
there was a grandstand, but nothing where you could actually be sheltered.
no,
And
I
the rain
guess.
was during the women's race, the rain was sideways, so you're like getting wet pants standing there with an umbrella. Like it
Oh
was
my
quite depressing.
goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made it exciting for me to watch from a distance, but it would have been a bit dreary in the pits. And props to everyone there, from the riders
Yeah.
to you, well, you are a rider and a media guy, and
Yeah.
just everyone that puts on that race. Warner Brothers, I'm thanking you.
Yeah.
UCI Commerce sounds like we need a few more watching the broadcast though. So
Yeah, well, yeah.
what's going on?
I don't know because are you referring to the Polegate issue, which
Well, yeah, it's everywhere over
yeah,
the internet. Like we're
yeah,
all looking at it on the bus ride up here, and
yeah,
Ben Cather did a great analysis of it. He really did.
yeah,
If you haven't seen it,
yeah,
it's worth watching because it's a pretty grey area. Like
yeah,
from where I stand, I didn't walk the course, but it certainly looks like it could be the right side of the B line that he's gone around.
yeah, yeah. I'm not even sure because some people are saying that pole is to mark the edge of the B line. Maybe even there's another one, but um, it's very hard. Why the hell do you use the same color, the same pole as used to mark the track boundary as to mark B lines? Then it's just confusing, and you almost need a different pole or completely taped for the B line, and the B line needs to be slower. Like you can't have the B line faster to not do the jumps. There was another jump at the top that no one jumped all week. Like it's just pointless to have jumps in a track and not tape the B line so it's slower.
Yeah, I saw the one at the top was a little bit of a missed opportunity because it's a good jump to have in the broadcast and to force the riders to go over, but I could see they could miss it.
Yeah.
So they could miss that one, but then suddenly they couldn't miss the one that Umri went around.
It's some people are saying that he didn't essentially go around it and that he was on the B line, but then I we needed to go up there and see essentially because on Josh Carlson's course walk video it says that he points out that this is the B line, but then why is the B line marked with the same poles as the course marking? Like it doesn't,
Yeah, and
it's
also
just
like as you
not clear.
yeah, and as exactly, it's not clear. Like as you're coming up, if
Mm,
you are forced to go over the lip, then you have to have a lot of those things in a row to
yeah,
demarcate that, and you can't have another width over there. Like where does that width
yeah,
start? So, in his defense,
yeah,
and Ben has a great analysis over of it. He did it in practice as well, just cruising, like goes around the jump. So it's like he doesn't maliciously do it to gain time. He just that's in his
well,
interpretation of where the course is or what.
I would say that he wanted to gain time because he was in Q2. And I'm pretty sure in his Q1 GoPro, he jumps the jump. So, I don't know, he was probably looking for anywhere to get some time for Q2. And it
Yeah,
was
but
probably
like
pretty
in
stressful.
his
But
mind, it's honest though.
yeah, yeah, I don't think he's trying to miss poles, but also that pole is behind the lip, so maybe he's like, I'll go around the jump. He's gone around it and gone around the pole without seeing the pole until he's off the jump.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so great. But what is a bit frustrating is like the time you have to protest. So some teams obviously going to
no,
protest.
they
Like this,
they need to get
what's
rid of they need to get rid of a time window to protest. Like the race is the next
okay?
day, so allow
Yeah,
them to protest before the next morning. Like
mate. Other
why?
sports people
Yeah,
phone in. Like there's literally like people will be watching on TV and phone in, and then the rules officials have to go look at footage, and then they
yeah,
literally like send a player a text and be like, "Dude, we docking you one shot penalty. Like you grounded the club or whatever, like it's in golf. Yeah, so that's fair. When it's like, yeah,
And
let's get some
and
like proper
yeah,
boundaries of these rules.
surely Amory himself, if someone else did that, he doesn't want them to get away with it and him miss the final or it affect his race. Um, I mean, he's obviously wants to be racing himself, but if it happened and the shoe's on the other foot, um, then he's going to want that person's fairly penalised because that's just fairness of sport, no?
Yeah, definitely, and I totally understand the protest. It's like you said, there's
Hmm.
people getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, euros. They want to be in the final. That's why they're there. Yeah, controversy, drama. Obviously, the internet's eating it up. I'm not
Yep.
on the spot to see exactly where the polls are, but Ben does a good analysis of
Well,
it. So there's no
I
point
didn't
us
get the
to beat
memo.
that dead horse.
Didn't get the
That
memo that most people were not doing the jump. So in the Q1 session, it was so windy along that straight, and I was like pretty much just clearing the jump, but kind of casing it, and I was like, I'm
yeah,
squid. And then I realized everyone was rolling the jump, and I was like, I just
but
wasted so
rolling
much
over the
energy.
lip or doing Amory's line.
Yeah, they're rolling over the lip, so
Oh, okay.
they're not getting much air though. They're going
So
like
you
very
couldn't
close.
you couldn't miss the jump from way earlier. That wasn't clear either.
I don't think so. No. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Anyway, so you didn't see it, but I felt like there was a pole leaning the wrong way with Loic, and he like went over it. And then Rick was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, there's a pole issue," but then Nico's like, "No, he was on the correct side." So that
Yeah.
was a big drama, and I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying, like, if one of those
Yeah.
poles is knocked over facing the wrong way, oh man,
I think.
you need skilled commissaires watching the broadcast with Hawkeyes.
But there's not. So I think the issue is the poles are too easy to have an issue with. Um, whereas if you had tape, you can't go on the other side of the tape without going through it. So the tape left um, less room for issues and these problems to arise during the race. You know.
An interpretation, yeah, for sure. But let's get on to the race. So, Matt, those conditions. Were you guys? I mean, were you hands and feet must have been just so cold at the top. I heard Troy saying it was just brutal until he got on his warm up bike and hopefully got some blood flowing into the socks and shoes and
Yeah.
fingers.
Well, on Q1, it was not too bad because the rain had stopped. So it was like,
Yeah.
it didn't really rain much at Q1. It rained just a little bit. And then in Q2 was raining the whole time. So then you get to the top, you're pretty cold, and you're just trying to warm up. I saw on the race date it was probably even colder because it was snowing more.
It's snowing
I
more.
saw like Ronan Dunn was warming up in the toilets of the building, like literally in the toilet with the door closed. So,
No way.
so I've never seen a warm up bike set up next to a toilet. And I'm like, well, if you can't get warm, it's pretty hard to do a good race. Like, if you go into that start gate with your hands still cold, there's no way you're going to be able to like set off with with you just got like claws. There's no way you can set off and like set the tone for a race run.
No, brutal,
Yeah.
man, brutal, and guys are having brake issues, going to the bar. Obviously, you hit a
Mm.
puddle, just goes straight on the
Yeah.
rotor, changes the temperature of the pads. Like for everyone at home, it is just
Yeah.
what those guys were able to do is just so impressive, guys and women. Like
Yeah.
Tani
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely ripped that course to pieces. Like
Yeah.
talked about her coming
Fully.
into the season. We'll talk later about it in the fantasy little league section, but she's just speaking with confidence. Obviously, a lot of forced like bike time. When you get a new bike, you have to test it, and you want to. Like, there's like an added motivation.
Yeah.
I think she's healthy, mentally strong now. Like she's built back pretty well, and said she's been in your interview. Like, she's been attacking hard and making some mistakes, and she just decided to keep attacking, and hopefully those
Yeah.
mistakes will sort of disappear.
Yeah. I do remember watching a lot of race runs last year when the conditions got bad at the end, and she'd be trying to attack it, and it just wouldn't work. And then this time she's just attacked it the whole way. and made it happen. And I think that's the only way to ride if you want to win in those conditions. She was definitely dealt the toughest conditions out of all the women, and she still won the race, so it's pretty special. And then she had no trouble with vision, but she probably couldn't see anything. Like, she only had a marsh guard on her bike. I was like, oh, she's got to have a proper mud guard. She had two marsh guards joined together to make a bigger mud guard, but like those big mud huggers or the bigger mud guards, they do really make a big difference for your vision because it doesn't all come off the front wheel. And she didn't even touch her goggles once. Then you see Valley after her just trying to pull tear-offs or roll-offs everywhere. And the race is lost at that point. Like, you're not even focused on what you're doing. You're more focused on trying to reach that little roll-off cord that you never use other than the 3 races a year when it rains in the race run. So props to Tani because she just bombs the whole run with a dirty windscreen.
No, it was amazing, man. I mean, that takes her back, I think, to her younger years in Morzine, down those plennies and stuff. So, so well deserved, and cool that we've got, that fire back in her belly. Obviously, Valley just said, look, she didn't have, and like you say, if you just turn down a notch and you're like 1% conservative to just like, okay, the conditions are treacherous, I'm just going to get down. You can see how she just bled time as the race goes on, and in the mud, one little hesitation and you lose a bit of momentum. It's not half a second you lose. You're going to lose a second, 2 seconds. And we saw it because that's a big time gap. She was back. So, yeah, obviously a tough pill to swallow for her. But I think when the conditions are evening out, like, she'll be back, as you would think.
And maybe more dangerous now because she's going to be pretty motivated. So I think she's quite dangerous when her back's against the wall a little bit. So the rest of the season she'll be pretty fired up.
No, I couldn't agree more. But I mean, Anna Newkirk, she was impressive the whole week from what I'm hearing, speaking to people on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's unreal. Yep. And her conditions didn't look very great or fun. You could argue Tani's were worse, I guess. Like, I'm not sure what hers were at the start gate.
Less snow for Anna at the start. Like, it wasn't snowing heavy. So she didn't have the white start ramp, which probably was nice. I don't imagine it's a great motivating factor when you like roll into the start gate and the start ramp's all white. And there's like,
I'm not sure it boosts your confidence much, does it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that's confidence inspiring.
No, I think like Nina Hoffman and a few others like in the middle there, which just was, I think it was Nina, it was like white.
Yeah, Gracie probably had the most. It was like big flakes coming down.
Yeah, like she looked good on the bike, but it was just like you're just racing into the wind, basically, just going backwards a little bit.
So Anna didn't really have that, but then all week she was riding so good, and then in her last practice run, I was up in that last shoot, and she was like really committed, really fast. Like,
yes, I saw that.
To not be sexist, some other guys were there, and they were like, oh, they thought that was Angel because she came in so hot. They didn't realize that it was Anna. So she just came in hot, and she leant over in that rut and was like almost on the edge, like completely. The bike elbows were almost down, and just swung it through that rut. And I was like, well, she's committed. She's on for a good one, like to be that committed in those conditions.
Yeah, that's awesome to see her get the support from Nico and factory team. And I mean, even his rig, obviously supported by Fox Clothing, from what I can see. Maybe they've brought their rig over, but dude, there's some serious rigs in the pit. So that's nice for her to do that already, like early season. You can join a big team and you would know that like, there's some subtle expectations. It's not like landing on your shoulders. It's not spoken about, but you want to deliver for the new team and all the staff and people helping you,
And even if those expectations are not from the team, they're still within yourself. Like, you're like, oh, I can't be here and not do well, because you see everyone else in those situations doing so well. So you kind of put the pressure on yourself as well a bit. But she's definitely delivered, and lived up to all the expectations, I imagine, and I'm pretty sure Nico's pretty stoked for how his little program is now looking like a big factory team.
Yeah, no, it's really cool to see. And I think first casualty, because we are talking about the women, is Camille Belange feeling healthy again, going good. First casualty of the new podium system in the men. I mean, in the men and women, but in the downhill, sorry.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
she's
both
in
the casualties
fourth.
were actually from Yeti, so yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah,
Really,
Yeti.
really tough pill to swallow. Yeti coming back to downhill, fielding this exciting team, delivering
Mm,
on old school paper, on the history
yeah,
books, it's a podium.
yeah, not anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, tough one. Because I heard them use a stat with Loic as he's equaled Nichols for his podium record. Loic was quick to
Yeah,
say that's cool, but not really a record he's going after, which was, I love how Loic will just take and accept the pressure, which is something we'll get to with him last man down. But okay, but so how does that work? Because Volios's podiums are
we're five.
inclusive of fourth and fifth.
Yeah,
And if Loic got fourth, you can't use that stat. So I understand there's a lot of reasoning behind XYZ, but now the history books are a little bit with an asterisk.
yeah. I really am not a fan of the getting rid of the fourth and fifth podium spots. Just it completely changes the whole history of the sport, and that is our sport. We don't need to be like other sports, in my opinion, anyway. So it's a shame, I think, because some of those normally those fourth and fifth positions they launched a lot of careers, and it is a much more of a springboard for someone if it's a podium spot rather than just being a fourth place.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I mean, it really is. I'm looking at these results, and normally it'd be like, oh fuck yeah, podium. But
yeah,
we don't,
yeah,
like, we're just not allowed to say that now.
yeah. It's a shame. It's a,
And like I said, I totally see why it's being done, and the world champs only has three, and other, I see the forum comments. Everyone's like, dude, get over it. Other sports only have three. It's like, okay, but we built our sport on five. We built
Mhm.
bonus structures, we built teams, we built careers, like you said, and we've
Yeah,
got this history, which is now, as I said, it's kind of got an asterisk. So, anyway, I guess we'll move on from there. But as you said, Yeti got dealt the frustrating card of like, yay, but it's not a podium.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's
So,
rough for
so
them.
what else? What else stood out in the women's for you as we kind of get through these results? We spoke about Tani. I mean, it's just clinical performance in the worst conditions. New team, new bike, new Tani. Just incredible ride. Nina was great and solid in also shite conditions. We talked
Yeah.
about Cami, and then Valley is in fifth, but frustrating because
Hmm.
she'll be looking at the time gap. She knows she was on for a win potentially here last year, but she crashed. So she got points,
Yeah.
but she would have been wanting a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, she definitely won't be happy with the fifth place, especially as she's won so much. So yeah,
Yeah, and I guess we shouldn't gloss over Hattie.
yeah,
Q1, she was third,
yeah,
and then she came unstuck. It's pretty impressive, bouncing back from a. She did the enduro as well, leading up to this.
yeah.
So we know she'll be strong. She was in my fantasy league, which we'll talk about later, and I mean, it happens. It happens to the best of us trying to make money in the fantasy. We bet on people, and sometimes they crash.
Well, I feel like she was having an amazing weekend until that final run when it all went south. And that first crash, she hit a puddle which was in the kind of G out hole point of a corner, and you wouldn't have been able to see how wide the rut was. Like it's a rut kind of hole where everyone was just punching the turn. So she probably just hit the edge of it underneath the water, and then it just would have washed the front without even realizing because it would have just looked like a puddle, and then
Yeah, I noticed that. It's like a puddle that
yeah,
might not even have been there or as big, and you've got no choice
yeah,
but to just dive in.
Yeah,
Like it's
and
blind.
then you can't see what's underneath there, and it would have been a rut, so the wheel would have hit one edge of the rut, and then that's it all over. And she would have done pretty well with a clean run on this track because she's super physically strong, and it was probably one of the more physical races for a long time, just with all that sticky mud and quite flat sections. Like out of the start's kind of flat, and that middle point is really flat where you go around that wooden berm and then pedal over all those jumps.
Yes, and
You couldn't,
Q3 to
yeah,
Q4, where Amri did so well,
yeah,
she probably would have done incredibly well as well.
yeah, yeah. You could make or lose a serious amount of time. So, and some riders you saw like they're just burning time in that one sector, and then they're really fast everywhere else, but you don't get it back anywhere on this track. So, I think it was a good one for the physical riders, as you saw. Like in the men's, you had two enduro guys get into the finals through Q1. So, I think it was one of the more physical races we've had for quite a while overall.
Yeah, and the rain and the mud just adds to that, and it's not that much gradient, so the physicality
Yeah,
just goes up. You make a mistake,
yeah,
you've got to fight in your mind even harder. But as you said, you're probably not going to get it back anyway. So
yeah,
yeah, it's brutal. Just compounds, mud. This would have been a good track for Mr. Greg Menard. I'll tell you that for free. In his
for
in
sure.
his
Yeah,
prime, he was methodical and had the power. He would have crushed down the bottom. So it would have been. That's quite ironic. He probably would have done quite well.
he probably could have still dusted off the boots and done quite well anyway if he'd
Yeah,
have
fair enough. If he
done a couple
got
weeks of
into the
training.
final, though, he might have been a bit slow to
Mm.
start and have to
Yeah,
deal
you
with
can't
the pressure.
can't be slow to start anymore.
No, you can't, man. Like you said, the strategy is going to change from all the top
Mm.
riders. It's probably just
Yeah,
go as hard as you can in Q1, and if you happen to come uncropper like Amaury Perron, well, then you're
mm.
in Q2, and it just is what it is. So, over to
Yeah,
the men. I mean, we start at the top. Loic Bruni. I mean, you would have forgiven him if he wasn't quite on his A game, coming in with what he mentioned, like a few of these nuisance injuries that kept him off the bike. And
mm.
there's a guy that between Loris and Loic, the way they speak about their riding, it's like they think they're going to get 35th. And that's what makes him good, man. It's just like not getting too cocky, not getting too complacent, like just methodical. And Loic, what a clinical performance.
Yeah.
Just
He
Q1
well,
winner,
yeah,
wins the race in arguably the crappiest conditions. Well, the men, it just went up and down, right, with vision, it seemed. And
yeah,
like it got peanut buttery there for a time. And yeah, just it was very, I think we've done this before, like in a rain race where we go, it's half six of one, half a dozen other one to decide
yeah.
which conditions were worse.
Well, I don't know. I'd say there were no good conditions for the men. I wouldn't want to be Loic starting last, but neither would I want to be Dom Platt starting first. And Dom, when he said when he started, there was like the snow was settling a little bit on the ground, so then he lost a little bit of the tire tracks and that, and then he didn't know how to approach that either. So either or are both quite bad. So
Yeah, but
um,
I mean, Amiri
yeah,
went super early, hey? I mean, he
yeah,
was second, third off, or what? If he was
yeah,
eight, what was
yeah.
he in Q2? Okay, maybe
Um,
not.
yeah,
He
he
was
was pretty
quite
early though
near. Where's
on
this?
the start list.
He was
Yeah,
pretty early. Anyway, it's pretty
yeah,
relevant because he got down. Bro, that
yeah.
sector he put down 3 and 4. I was like, is anyone
Well,
ever going to get close to this?
he's just a powerhouse as well. So Armory gave it everything and is probably, I would imagine him and Richie Rude would be the two most powerful people, and they were pretty close together in that sector. So,
And then
um,
Loic is the sneaky assassin, probably just as powerful.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, without
you
anyone
don't
knowing.
notice it. You just don't notice it because he's
Yeah,
just so smooth and like methodical,
yeah,
eh?
yeah, and his bike's completely dialed in. He's got that new bike, but he's from what speaking to Finn, it sounds like Loic's done a lot more work on that new bike than Finn has. So he's got that thing pretty dialed in, I think, and it seems to be working pretty well. to win both of those. He normally would have maybe previously in the past struggled with confidence in that final with the conditions like that.
True.
But now he's an all round rider and he can win in any condition, which he already could, but maybe even more so now. So I think it'll only take like some sort of issue this year for Loic to get knocked down a bit, but that could happen at any moment in downhill. But I think he's on top of the game right now.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
he did prepare well, and he's obviously got a lot of time. But he did have a few of those blocks that he missed. But it might have like motivated more to do more runs when he was able to. So you can
mm,
catch things up a little bit. But this will definitely help the confidence. Like I do, as I say, he speaks outwardly he's quite humble and like, yeah, I'm
yeah,
feeling pretty good. Hope I've got speed. I'm doing my thing. Bike's good, and then he delivers. I think he internally believes he can deliver in the wet. Like he's kind of used to speak that he wasn't confident in the wet, but it's like he's shown us last year he
yeah,
can perform, and now first race, his confidence is going to be high for him for the series. And talking
yeah,
about going after record book wins. He's like, oh, it's cool that I've
yeah.
got my idol's podium record or tied it, but it's not one I'm after.
Yeah, well, now there's more races, so it will be easier to reach some of those record book uh, win streaks if you really go on a streak and have a good
Yeah, if you
season.
go on a streak.
Yeah.
Yeah, Greg said that. He's like, I think people could beat the record, and I was like, I don't know if everyone's going to race as long as you did, Greg. However, he has a point, and if Loic gets to the point that like, well, winning secures the title the easiest way, because I feel in the past the reason he's got less World Cup wins, he's up to 10 now, if I stand to be corrected, is because he gets in his title hunts, and then
Mm.
consistency will win that title near the end of the season. You don't see him throwing it away going for a win.
Yeah, it's probably one of the very few riders who could manage a title hunt and have a mechanic on the or staff member on the side of the track telling you how you're doing at the time, and then manage that information and deliver a race run like that. Like I imagine there's been quite a lot of races where he could have just gone and won them, but he's managed the race to get the result that he needs to get for the title chase, and that's
Yeah,
pretty mental.
he manages the race, and Burrell was saying that he sometimes probably shouldn't have pushed as hard because it wasn't a course that suited him, and he crashed out. And Loic maybe
Mm,
sometimes knows, okay, well, fourth is a really good result for me this week, and he
mm,
doesn't let it affect him and go for something more. But the
yeah.
Irish were exciting. Ronan Dunn was on pace but crashed out, but
Hmm.
his countryman sure delivered. I mean, he almost
Yeah.
took the win, 0.1 off. Ocean.
Yeah, it was insane, insane, and his I think yeah he had really fast sector in the very last sector because Loic was losing time to him, but then he still had maybe zero point 0.6 I think, and then Ocean was half a second quicker in that last sector, and I would say that Ocean was probably one of the only ones in that final that were on dry tires. He just ran standard Cryptotels rather
Come
than
again?
Argotels. He was on dry tires
Why? What?
because
I
that's
wasn't
what he
even going to
rides in
ask you
Ireland.
about tires.
Yeah, he rides in Ireland. He rides dry tires, so he just ran them in the final. It's like
No, you're taking the piss.
no, he had crypto tails on, and then like Colby and the other Conti riders, quite a few of them went to the Hydrotel, which is like extreme mud tire. Like it's one of the most extreme ones.
Yeah, I would think
And then
that's what you
yeah,
do in the mud. Yeah, normally, right,
yeah.
Win?
But there's a Argotel as well, which is like intermediate, and it's quite a good tire in the wet too. So not often, even as a Conti rider, that you'd use Hydrotels. But those guys were on them, and then you've got Ocean second in the race on the dry tire, which is mental.
And he did good from split 3 to split 4.
Yeah,
He was similar. He pulled back similar sort of time that Amri did to Loic.
yeah,
Like Loic just came
prob-
out the gas and just smashed everything, but You can see
Yeah.
the little diagram here that Ocean pulls back there. So Umri with the
Maybe the
power
rolling speed.
and Ocean
Rolling
with the
speed as well.
rolling
Yeah.
speed was pretty
Mm.
impressive.
But then to turn on dry tires is like pretty gnarly when it gets that wet. You've got
It is in my mind, but clearly
yeah,
not for him. But his approach is quite stark to Ronan Dunn. You know, Ronan Dunn's like to me the McGregor of downhill
yeah,
in a weird
yeah,
way, and Ocean's just like quietly goes about his business. Freaking
yeah,
boom. You know, he's won a
yeah.
World Cup before and slots himself into second here, and he's had other great results and super exciting. I like seeing him do well. It's really cool.
Yeah, well, it sets him up for a pretty good season now if he's going to go on a bit of a roll as well. Like he's maybe not ever started the season so strong, so that's going to be exciting to see if he can keep that going all year. Then he could be dangerous, I think, for the
Yeah, for
title
sure.
if he does that. Yeah, like he's got a good shot at it now. Like
Yeah,
he's had
that's
it.
fair. I mean, you don't always put him in
Yeah,
like a title hunt conversation, but that doesn't mean he couldn't. You know, it just hasn't happened
yeah.
before,
I think he's
and
had
that
enough
often
years to learn. Maybe.
definitely, yeah. No, he's got good group of good team around him. I know his dad that's influential role as well. So that's true. Let's hope we've got enough of these guys that stay in the title hunt. You know, and it's not just a two-horse race. Couple people,
Yeah,
10 race series. We haven't seen it for a while. Consistency
yeah,
is going to pay off. But if you can
yeah,
rack a winner to you jump ahead in points, big time, and then a few key guys, you know, Loris
yeah.
and Jackson that we thought could be in the title hunt, but they've got some work to do now.
Oh, yeah. But then that will be the interesting one for Ludenville if those guys can come back and make it happen. Like, there's going to be, I'm sure they're getting to work this next week before Ludenville to try and fix whatever they need to and be ready for the next one.
Yeah, for sure. Dan was talking about how many runs he's going to do at Andorra. He's going to go home and back to Andorra,
Yeah,
and I'm sure, yeah, we can change a lot in downhill. If you get some good bike time, you just find that little something that you maybe were missing, a little bit of speed, a little bit of setup, whatever
yeah,
it may be. Yeah, so Richie Rude, we said, yeah, a bit frustrating, but we have to say, what a ride. He's only 1.5 back. Makes sense, these conditions, but to have that intensity at round one, it's really awesome. He got through in Q1, so did Martin Mays. Really awesome to see it. And I think Thibaut Deprilla deserves a big shout out because
yeah.
not a lot has been spoken about him over the last year or two, you know, after that huge breakout season he had when he was on Markov Common Cell. But he
hmm
sneakily slotted into fifth there, technically,
He
old school
he
podium.
looked he looked like his older riding style that he kind of probably missed last year.
Yep.
And I think that new team that he's on, Rogue Racing, it's a small team, a small Italian team. I was actually working with them last year. Um, they do really a lot with suspension and data. For a small team, they have small team, small budget, but they're doing the same, if not more, than the big teams. So it's probably going to be pretty interesting how he keeps going throughout this year. I think you could see him getting back to those wild race runs where he goes for the win, and it's an all or nothing affair because some of his race runs in the past were pretty epic to watch, and that's what the crowd want to see, you know. And he did
Yeah,
look a bit more
definitely.
like that this week. He looked like that, so it was like cool to see him kind of back at that sort of exciting race runs. You know, like we need riders like that. Like a lot of riders, they have that for a while and they kind of lose that when they get more polished. But as a fan, that's what you want to watch.
And I mean that team had three riders in the final.
Yeah, crazy.
You know, and Goodman Santa Cruz
It's
had a ride in there, so that's cool
yeah.
to see. Road
So
racing.
so there was a lot of Santa Cruzes in the final in front of Syndicate riders, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, minus Ollie Davis, obviously, shame came a cropper, but
Yeah,
that's cool to see. Sorry, oh, he's actually moved over. Why am I thinking that?
he's
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 moved
Trek. Yeah,
over to Trek, but he
yeah,
deserves a shout out because a
yeah,
lot of people were talking about his teammate that was going to do well at Poland
yeah,
and was on the cards to do well,
yeah,
and he outqualified him.
yeah. And Ollie got injured, if I'm not wrong, at hardline as well. So he's had to come through the off-season injury too. And then to deliver in Q1 such an epic qualifier, it's pretty unreal.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yes, we've got a few riders that maybe didn't quite spark the speed, and then we've got a
Mm.
few riders that had crashes, and it's a 10 race series. You're going to have some mishaps. You're going to probably have some
Yeah,
mechanicals or crashes, every rider. It's going to be very difficult
yeah,
to have a perfect
yeah,
season. We barely see that with 7 rounds, 8 rounds. So it'd be hard pressed to see it with 10. So I guess if you're one of those riders, you would hope you go back and you lick your wounds, but pretty quickly, and you don't dwell on it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the likes of Jackson or so on, they're going to have to just come out swinging in Ludenville. Really?
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah,
Troy, it's not like
yeah,
him to be down the sheet like that after a big mistake. Lockie had the
yeah,
speed, but a
yeah,
mistake.
yeah,
Danny Hart, solid race, but obviously he's going to want more.
yeah.
Joe Breeden was a good standout, hey? That was cool to
Yeah, he
see.
was
He hasn't
really,
quite sparked that sort of speed for a while, but we all know he's got the potential to do so.
yeah, really good in Q1 as well. Eighth, I
Yeah.
think, and then 16th in the final. And on that new belt drive intense, which is like probably by some margin the heaviest bike in the on the circuit. I think it's 20.5 kilos. He said. So that that extra weight's definitely giving him some grip or doing something because he was looking good on track.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And what else stood
Yeah.
out for you as we maybe wind down and then I'll drag you into my fantasy world?
Oh, just shout out to Martin Mace for a top 10, eighth,
Yes?
and
That's
it's
huge,
his
man.
yeah, yeah, his first official race full time downhill rider, same as Richie. So the interesting one for me will be how those guys go in Ludenville after such a great start. Will they be able to back that up and keep it rolling? I think
Yeah, on
I
a
think
proper
yeah,
steep downhill track. Not to say Poland's
yeah,
not a proper downhill track. It's not what I meant, but it's a different style down Ludenville, eh?
yeah. It's Ludenville has like a little bit of flat at the top, and then it just drops away and it's steep the rest of the track. So maybe 70% of the track is steep, 30% is flat. So like you're not gonna get away with not being able to ride steep, gnarly European, and it probably will be like. What's the chances we'll get another potentially wet? You'll have a wet day in Ludenville, surely.
Yeah, we
We've
we, we
always,
probably
yeah,
probably will. Lucas Shaw snuck
yeah,
in there in six as well. Sneaky guy. I
yeah,
thought that track in those conditions would suit him well, and they did.
yeah,
Max Hartiston, fuck, that
yeah.
was a good run
Max,
as well in
really
eighth.
good. Yeah,
And
yeah,
Pinkerton, I talked about him in the preseason. Like he's gonna have the speed, qualified really
yeah.
well. Probably not the conditions that would suit him just yet, but
No,
still got
yeah,
down in 11th, ahead of
yeah. He
Finals, ahead
was,
of Remy Teron,
yeah,
Jordan Williams.
yeah,
So like, bloody good ride.
yeah. I think Pinkerton's on for some big results this year. As soon as things go his way, conditions wise, he was really good in the Q1 as well. So a little bit drier track, maybe he could be fighting for the win. He looks really strong now. So, and he's riding that confidence wave, which is pretty dangerous. It's going to be exciting if he can deliver it.
Just like people sprinkling their homes, it's also a great time to reset your body and routine. Whether you're heading into warmer days or still shaking off winter, feeling good starts from the inside. And for me, that starts with AG1. I've always cared about my health, whether it was during my racing days or now, juggling travel, work, riding, the little one, and everything in between. But even with the best intentions, I don't always get the nutrition I need. That's why I love AG1. It's so easy. One scoop, I mix it up in 60 seconds, and boom, I'm covering my bases with 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and more. No more cabinets full of random supplements. I hate that. Just one simple habit that actually sticks. With daylight savings kicking in for some, those brighter mornings are a great time to dial in your routine. Whether you're waking up to crisp spring air or full blown summer heat like I am in South Africa, AG1 helps me shake off the grogginess and get going. Plus, it actually tastes good, which makes it easy to stay consistent. This time of year, we're all getting outside more, riding, traveling, just being more active. AG1 makes it simple to support my body, whether I'm at home or on the move with the travel packs. Listen to this. It's been tested for over 500 herbicides and pesticides, made with no artificial junk, and it's NSF certified for sport. So I trust what's going into my body. Best of all, there's a 90-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it risk-free. Right now, you get a free bottle of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs at a $48 value for free when you go to drinkag1.com/moving the needle, or click the link in the show notes. That's drinkag1.com/moving the needle to simplify your routine and feel your best this season. Start with AG1. All right, Wyn, I'm going to just sneak you into my fantasy league. So I'm helping the race companion. Now I hope you're going to go into a team.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to do a summary, which we've done. We've done the top 5 elite and the top 5 women. So I'm just going to run through them. So exciting. We're just going to go through this again. So it's the race companion. Welcome back. We're just going to go through. So first was Loic Bruni, amazing commanding win. We've been through. Second is Ocean O'Callaghan. Third, Amri Perron. Fourth, Richie Rude. Fifth, Thibaut Deprella. Then in the women, it was exciting stuff. We're just getting up. Where are these results? I'm missing my thing. Here we are. And the women, Tani Seagrave. Jeez, what a run. She was in first. Anna Newkirk in second. Third was Nina Hoffman. Fourth was Camille Belange. Fifth was Valley Hole. Right. So that was your summary. The standout runs for you, Wyn. Why don't you pick a standout run? That's a fair question. Of the whole race, like which is the standout run for you?
The whole race. Anna Newkirk, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, for the whole
That's
race.
nice to hear.
Yeah. And if we're going to do a men's one as well, then we'll just go with Richie Rude.
I like that. So you haven't just gone with the winners. You've gone like what stands out to you on the podium. I like that. Okay, since you've gone for those two, I've got to put Tane's run up there. Like, her commitment and sheer speed down that track was really amazing. Obviously, Anna had an incredible run to only be a second pass, but like come down that late in those treacherous conditions, and like you said, not even ripping tear-offs. That's probably
crazy.
Probably my run.
Yeah.
Let me go to the men. I think Ocean. Like I picked Amri in my team, which we'll get to. But Loic, it's kind of expected. And Ocean, like, it's not a surprise when you see it on paper, but you maybe just didn't call it before the race started.
You don't know if you're going to get it, but then, it was good.
Then it's like no surprise.
On dry tires, it's just mental.
Yeah. It's actually, that's the the standout is someone who would ride dry tires down that track just in general,
which,
and let alone
I don't know.
second.
I guess when you live in somewhere that's wet all the time, then you normally just ride the same tires all the time because you can't, most of the time you're not going to change. You're not going to change them between wet and dry tires, and then he probably just is that comfy on those tires.
Yeah, but when you would hope he's a factory rider who's got a spare set of wheels. But when you're at home without a mechanic, you just look down there and you go, "I'll just ride these, won't I?"
Yeah, you will. Yeah, and it'd be like, I guess if you're from Ireland, you look outside, it's raining, you're like, oh, it's not that wet.
Yeah. And I'd say big moments. If we say there's some big moments from crashes to weather shifts to mechanics to controversies, my biggest moment is the weather shifts. Like. As far as there were some big crashes, there were mechanicals, not really much to write home about. And there was a big controversy with Amri Perron. But the weather shifts take the cake for me for big moments. I don't know about you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've seen only in Leogang World Champs that it was snowing, kind of. And this was like snow settling on the ground, and the women's race looked like almost a ski start. So,
it literally
the
did.
weather was really something. Yeah.
No, the weather wins, and then I guess annoyingly there is the controversy with Amri that people need to figure out. These things happen. So there was a big moment in terms of a controversy.
And Hattie as
didn't
well
get
on the women's side.
The what?
Yeah. Hattie on the women's side with the man running in the track. Like that should be a
Yeah, that is a
rerun. So
bigger
there's
thing.
controversy in each one. Yeah.
True, that is bigger than I gave it credit for because I'm thinking, okay, well, she'd already crashed, so what does it matter? But
Mm.
that shouldn't come into the equation ever.
No.
It's
No.
not fair. You
Yeah.
deserve a rerun for sure. I don't. I mean, is it even
And
in the
then
rules? I wonder what's in the rule book for that.
that rerun could be putting her on the podium or more. Who knows?
Imagine she won the 100
Yeah.
grand.
Yeah. On the rerun. Yeah.
Mate, I was waiting for that pedal, thinking they might be dishing out 100 grand there.
Yeah.
How would you say the course rode versus expectations? uh, a lot slower and a lot more slippy than what we expected Poland to be.
Yeah. Yeah. But probably rode better than it looked, maybe. Like,
Okay.
and I imagine with all that water flowing down when the river was there, it wasn't so bad. Like, for me, in Q2, it was way more wet. Q1, I was kind of learning my racing again because I've not been doing many races. In Q2, I actually went faster than my Q1, which was way more wet in the Q2. So I
Did
was
you
like,
now?
yeah. I was one of the few that went quicker. So I was like, yeah, all right, I'll take that. But I did like the rainy conditions where it's just you just ride the river and you've got that grip because the ground is clean.
Yeah.
So I think it rides better than it looks. And the ruts were quite deep. There's quite a lot of good ruts.
Yeah. I said in
Yeah.
the pre-pod for the race companion here that it is more of a sprint track, but I was obviously referring to when it's dry. Like you can't build a
Mm.
race run. You got to come on the blocks like hell for
Yeah.
leather. And you know what? Even in the rain, it was like that.
Yeah.
Like it is one of the shorter tracks on tour.
Yeah, and you couldn't rest at any point, even if you were struggling physically, like where that wooden bridge is and you pedal around to do those jumps. The riders that took half a breather there, they've lost 2 to 3 kilometers per hour that whole next straight. They don't get
Yeah,
it back.
true,
Yeah.
true.
So
All right, so
it's still a sprint.
yeah, definitely. I'm gonna just catch you up on fantasy results, and hopefully you're gonna put a team in, right? So the
Yeah.
perfect team. Obviously, you got to pick four men, 2 women, and you got this budget of $4 million. I don't think the team's quite riders quite cost that much, but anyway, the optimal team was Loic Bruni, no surprise, for $1 million. Ocean
Mhm.
O'Callaghan at 800,000. So quite a strong pick, to spend that much. Richie Rude was a
Yeah.
good buy, I guess, at
Yeah.
550,000. And Nathan Pontvion, he got 62 points for a very well priced 200 grand. Then the woman, no surprise, Tani, she was on my team for 800 grand. And Anna Newcook, yeah, no surprise at 550.
Hmm.
So I had, let's think about this. Fantasy wins and losers. I'm just going to go through. You're going to love these names, Win. So
Mm.
first place, Baggy with 1,393 points. He won a DMR prize bundle. This one you're going to enjoy. Big Dick Nick with 1,223. Well done to him. He's stepped up to his name. Third, Force Field with 1,231. Zara Phillips. Oh, come on. You got to think of a better name. 1,098. Well done.
Yeah.
Fifth, SNG. Skov Hugerin MTB. Okay, I hope I did that justice. 1,093. Now, to the annoying part of the show. My picks. All right, so let's think about this. When before the race, I had Lockie, I had Benoit, who we didn't speak about
Yeah.
because I knew it's going to happen now. That guy was on fire and then lost his chain and still got, what did he get? Eighth? Is it that good?
10th. 10th. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Cool. So I had Benoit in my team. Where's the rest of this team? So Lockie doing well, crashed out. Benoit doing well, chain came off. Tane
Mm.
wins. Hattie Harnden doing very well, crashes out and has a course master. So she sort of, I've been robbed.
Yeah.
And
You've been
then,
robbed. You've been
and
robbed.
Amri delivers. I mean, just
Yeah.
how robbed could one man get?
Yeah.
Yeah, not happy
Well,
about that.
well, the only other way would have been if Amory got DQ'd, then you'd be even more wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I don't know, Puertane crashed in the last turn or something after being
Yeah.
up at the split. So I did okay there, but I got robbed. Lockie fell off, Benoit chain off,
Yeah.
that's two. Hattie got ruined. Okay, so two
Hmm.
of the six. Yeah, I got robbed.
Yeah.
I'm in 133rd position in the world. It's not too bad. I picked Commensal Makov as a team just because of their loaded riders. I'm not sure where I did in
Yeah.
the team. Miriam, not her best. Amri, great. Loris, pretty decent. Dylan Maples was
Yeah.
looking good, but didn't end so good.
Yeah.
So what do you think I got to do for the next round? Give me a few tips here. Who do you think I got to send you? I guess offline. You got to build a team with me. We're going to
Yeah.
Ludenville next. So
Yeah.
let's remind the viewers we're going to Ludenville. You've just mentioned flat traversy at the top, and then it goes super steep,
Drops away.
super
Yeah.
awesome, and it probably could and will rain.
Ronan. Ronan there. Because he was fifth with a crash last year.
So you think, yeah, Ronan makes sense. He's going to go
Yeah.
crazy. Ocean could do Walligate. Umri could do
Yeah.
like all the usual suspects, and then you probably throw.
Hmm. You got to put Nathan Pontbian still in there. I think
He
he's
could
got
do
some talent.
well.
Yeah.
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 Um, Reese came back there. Is that like a track where his creative lines and stuff will shine through?
He
You know?
needs to deliver. So he's one that could be out to prove himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So the next round is, as we record this, there's a week off and then it starts, I guess. So there's one
Yeah.
weekend off and then
Hmm.
it's the following weekend. You guys look it up in the
Yeah.
diaries. I don't have it. So just
Yeah.
remember, don't forget, there's still time to head to racecompanion.com, set your team. I'm going to bully Win to do that, play for prizes in the Global League, and or even create a league with your mates. So, and each round, remember, it's scored individually and they dish out prizes. So that's really, really cool. And then I'll do a pre race show, which will drop before that race, the week of that race. So thanks to everyone that played. And thanks to Win for having a go with me and talking a bit about the fantasy from Race Companion. He maybe doesn't even know, but I've been asked to be the host. So why not? I love racing. I love talking to Win. Mate, thanks so much for making time. I know you've had a big drive and then flight home from Poland. You've been standing in the cold
Yeah.
for a week. That would look brutal, man.
It was the coldest World Cup I can remember. So yeah, I was kind of glad to get back to the sunny UK.
Yeah, man. So shout out to those
Yeah.
enduro riders that did so well. That was really cool. And we've been through hopefully enough information you like. So let us know in the comments what you like, what your opinion is with some of the controversies, and then on Race Companion, listening to that, hit us up in the comments. This has been your race review, which is brought to you by none other than Crank Brothers. Myself and selected co-hosts like Wyn Masters will break down each and every World Cup this season. And remember, there's 9 more to go and World Champs. They are synonymous with the DH racing circuit. They basically just own that place. Celebrating 14 years in a row with Elite World Champs win on that Mallet DH pedal. They also won the 2024 World Cup title, overall title under Loic Bruni. It's not just pedals. That man, Wyn Masters, is on the wheels. They also are excited to announce they added Commensal Makov will be running their wheels. And then what
Mm.
I think is amazing, I run the Boa edition Crank Brothers shoes. So does people like Ronan Dunn, Andy Kolb's on the shirt. Wins mate Bernard Kerr, unlucky out with an injury. And then Ocean
Mm.
O'Callaghan delivering. Lucas Shaw sneaking in 6. Camille Belange, Troy Brosnan, Benoit Coulange. Basically almost the whole World Cup friggin' top 10 there. So yeah, till the next one. Thanks, Win. You've been awesome. And peace out, boys and girls.
Thanks very much.